We are now in Tenkasi, a small town about 500 to 600 kilometers away from Chennai and Bangalore, two prominent SaaS hubs of India. Amid scenic waterfalls and artistic temple, which Tenkasi is known for, lies Zoho's office spread across 15 acres of land. This is fast becoming a global tech hub. This started off in 2011 as a vision to build global products from India's rural hamlets. Today, the firm employs more than 800 people. Can this Tenkasi model be taken across India? What does it take? Joining me today with all the answers is Sridhar Vembu himself, the co-founder and CEO of Zoho.
Thank you for being here in Tenkasi. Vanakkam.
Vanakkam, sir.
Can this model be replicated? The real answer is are people, entrepreneurs, leaders willing to commit to making this model work? So it's the question is not an independent of what leadership or what passion people have. So it's really a question of, are you committed to making this successful? Do you have the passion to make that successful? That's what it takes to replicate this model. I believe it can be replicated once you find that leadership that is committed, passionate, determined to make this work. And I believe we can do this in any of our 800 plus districts all over India. And our citizens in all those districts deserve this. So I wish Zoho could be there in all of those places, but maybe we can be in 10 of those places. But a lot of other companies can do this as well.
Can you tell us specifically about this facility? Will you be expanding more, or what's new? What's exciting happening within the facility?
Yeah. So our Tenkasi office itself now said about 800 plus people. We are building a bigger one that will house another about 1,000 people. So in maybe 3 or 4 years, we could have about 2,000 people if global economy and everything cooperate. That I always have to add that if now. But that's our current projection in the next 3-4 years. And Tenkasi facility itself has become a hub around which other spoke offices have come up in smaller villages. So which means that we have about 4 spokes with a hub. The hub is what provides a centralized services. For example, in the spoke, if there is network is down, the hub office has the expertise to solve those problems. And they may have an excess stock of hardware or smartphones or other services that are possible. And this allows us to keep people closer to the roots, working in these spoke offices, and also enjoy the services a bigger hub office provides. That's a model that we are trying to replicate in other districts in around Tamil Nadu and also take in north.
Got it. I'm going to come to you for that.
Yeah.
But tell us a little bit about how the local ecosystem has, come up since Zoho has stepped up. Such a big move, right? What has changed in the ecosystem?
Yeah. Tenkasi itself now has, compared to say 10 years ago, the economic conditions have definitely improved here. In fact, I can compare my native district to Tanjavur and Tenkasi. These are very similar in terms of the rural background and all of that, and both are relatively fertile districts with agriculture as the predominant profession for most people. And we expanded in Tenkasi. We have not yet expanded in Tanjavur. You can visibly see the difference in terms of what you see in rural areas. So it's very important that this type of effort takes place in every one of our rural districts. That's what we are hoping for.
Great. Sridhar, you spoke about setting up new hubs in Uttar Pradesh and also Madurai and other areas, right? Why Uttar Pradesh? I mean, what attracted you? What motivated you to set up a hub in?
A few months ago, I traveled in central eastern Uttar Pradesh, and I saw firsthand what is there. And second, this whole eastern Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, these are some of the most demographically rich regions of our nation, and demographics is destiny. Our industry in particular is a very talent-driven industry, and where young people are, we can actually nurture and create the talent. We have Zoho schools of learning that we can replicate that. So we are confident that we can take kids from schools there and train them into our work. So we are able to invest in them, and that is why, and given the demographic dividend those places enjoy, we thought that would be a good place to find ourselves in.
Got it. Would you be willing to share how much you're planning to invest in Uttar Pradesh?
It's too soon to tell. Actually, I'm going there next month to finalize some of these, so it's too soon to say all that.
Got it.
Yeah.
And in the Madurai facility, what do we expect from there? Share some more details about it.
It's a 35-acre campus and in Kapalur, which is very close to the Madurai airport. It also is in a somewhat rural area near Madurai. This will allow us to put a hub there. We would expect immediately about 250 to 400 people, and then long term it will grow into 1,000. It will grow like our Tenkasi operation. And we also have smaller spoke offices in around the region. All of them can now enjoy better services thanks to this hub we are creating in Madurai. A similar one is coming up in Tharuvai, near Tirunelveli.
What kind of employment will it generate, both in Uttar Pradesh and in Madurai?
That's the big unknown at this point, because we have global economic uncertainty, AI-related uncertainty. All of it mean that we cannot really forecast. But our business is sound. We have no debt. We are cash flow positive. We have been profitable, and we think we can power through this downturn, and that will affect us, but it won't. Maybe it will affect us less. That's what the hope is. So we can only tell over the next 3-5 years how things turn out.
Okay, got it. Sridhar, apart from being a techie that you are, you also have a couple of passion projects, like for example, skill development, learning, education, grassroots level learning, and more. Tell us more about it. Tell us more about your other passion projects that we don't know of. You revealed one about EVs today. Yeah. Why don't you tell us more about your passion projects and also a little bit about the school, Kalaivani Kalvi Mayam?
So my passion is, of course, you have to grow better food because we eat, and we have to go more local in our food so that we can eat fresher food, and that is one. That's why we are doing farming and closer to nature, closer to food, all of that. That's one of my passions. And I also want to create a balanced regional economy, not just dependent on farming. Farming is very important, but also manufacturing, all that. So we are trying to create the skills and the expertise through our schools, all of that. And the third, of course, we need better healthcare. So we have created a clinic in Makkalampare. We are also trying to replicate it here in Govindaperi as a kind of a branch of that clinic. So all of those projects are going on. I'm personally working on some new technology projects, some of it related to the AI, programming languages, those areas. And those we will hope to launch in the next year or two, then we'll be able to talk about them.
Sure. You mentioned AI, and I can't be without asking this. You've been very vocal about, AI being a threat to many jobs, especially programmers' jobs. Why is that? I mean, can you tell us more about it? And what are the projects also, if you can share?
AI technology creates immense opportunities, but it also poses challenges. I liken it to how weavers, handloom weavers, facing the power looms, the air jet looms, all of that very high productivity technologies, and suddenly the economic basis get undercut. When productivity in a sector goes up rapidly, if revenue is not growing or demand is not growing at the same rate, employment gets affected. And software programmers, I've often likened us to weavers in that sense. We are weaving together code. We are not weaving clothes, but we are weaving code. And now this power loom is coming in the form of AI and other technologies, some of which we have also been working on, which promise to unleash the productivity. When that happens, can demand for software keep up with this productivity? If we are able to produce 10 times the software, will there be demand for 10 times the software? Those are open questions. If not, employment will take a hit. We have to be prepared as an industry. I'm preparing our own people for any such disruptions by retraining, by repurposing ourselves, and getting into sectors where employment potential is greater. Those are all the things that we are working on right now.
Got it. Sridhar, you were also an active member or appointed as the as the board member of the National Security Advisory Board, right? So we didn't hear much about it. What happened? What is something that's happened?
I'm in the board and I participate in the deliberations. I make presentations, and since that work is confidential, I cannot really talk much about it. But all of it touches on the similar topics I talk about in my public engagements. Our in technology self-reliance, and particularly all the critical technologies have to be brought to India. We have to own those technologies. Those are the same kinds of things that I work for the NSAB.
Got it. Sridhar, I have two HR related questions to you. So, one of the massive costs for a SaaS company is the cost of talent acquisition, right? For Zoho, would that come down being present across the rural parts?
We invest in talent. So it's not just talent acquisition, it's also talent creation for us. So we are investing in creating the talent, and that takes more effort in rural areas. So in that sense, it's a wash, but investment is always better when you're creating the talent because people are more passionate and more committed. So that's why we like to invest in talent creation.
Got it.
But it's also good for our society. We are broad-basing our opportunities.
Talking about the overall SaaS ecosystem, right? One of the important, issues or one of the recent issues that came about is the Silicon Valley Bank collapse. What would be your lessons from that?
Yeah, and this, because the causes have to be understood. It's not like suddenly the bank collapsed. This was all the central bank policy that created those bubbles, the zero interest rate policy, the whole QE policies, which is basically money printing by a different name, and rampant money printing. All of this very bad economics was practiced for a long period. And then suddenly, when inflation raised its ugly head, they had to tighten policy. And Silicon Valley Bank is one of the early victims of that. And unfortunately, I don't believe they'll be the only victims. I believe the Reserve Bank in the advanced countries have set themselves up for a massive economic disruption. They bear primary responsibility. If there is any kind of justice, they should face accountability for their bad decisions they have taken.
But is the environment good enough for SaaS companies to now, be it even a simple keeping their deposits in India? Is it possible here? What would you advise a young
Our banking system is safe and effective because our government regulations are much more stringent, more conservative. So we have not allowed ourselves that whole extreme bubble making policies in the West. I hope we don't. I hope we don't follow their economic blueprint because they have been quite bad. And just yesterday I tweeted about Larry Summers, who was the Treasury Secretary under Clinton, former Harvard president, leading economist. He said a very disturbing parallel between the former Soviet Union and the USA, current contemporary America, in terms of falling life expectancy. He said falling life expectancy was a very good predictor of what eventually became. And so, and this is something that it's a real worry, and which is a strong indictment of all the economic policies pursued in the US in the last 30 years. So we should learn our lessons here, much more prudent and conservative in our economic and monetary policy. And we have been, so that's why our banking system is much more sound.
But how is the overall SaaS ecosystem, Sridhar? Things have not been pretty good, and you've also been talking about it, how the hiring has slowed down and much. How is it now? Do you see a clear vision of things settling down?
We still see we will suffer a burst proportional to the boom. That's always been true. If you look at the bigger the boom, unfortunately the bigger the bust, particularly when it's fueled by this monetary policy. And that's what we are suffering right now. And I believe we are still in the early stages. We still have some more things to come. Just like the SVB seemingly came out of nowhere. I expect more disruptions like this. We just have to stay resilient. Good companies will be prudent, try to become cash flow positive, cut back on unnecessary spending, particularly a lot of marketing spending. And those are all the things that we have done to be prudent in this time.
Sridhar, SaaS companies like Freshworks, ChargeBee, they've announced layoffs, of course, because of the macroeconomic situation. Yes. How are you managing all this? I mean, I'm sure you've always said that layoffs are not on the cards. Right. So how are you then managing the cost?
We will take a reduction in profit. We have been profitable. Unlike them, we have been profitable throughout because we spent less on marketing. We accepted a lower growth rate because of that. And because we have been profitable, we can take a reduction in profit margin and still survive. And that way we don't have to affect employees. And particularly in these times, throwing people out of their job is a cruel thing to do. So we would like to retain our employees. We would like to offer a safe harbor to our employees during this time. And that's the only way that our employees also can focus long term in creating good technologies, great technologies through investment in R&D. So all these go together. So we have taken a no layoff policy, and barring some world-ending catastrophe, I think we will stick to it.
Great. One last question, Sridhar, from my end. You've already reached $1 billion revenue. So what's ahead? I mean, will we hear more on your IPO plans, or what's ahead for Zoho?
Definitely no IPO, but I want to put this billion in perspective. Yes, we are definitely happy about that. We are the first Indian product company to reach that milestone, but still Microsoft is at 200 plus billion, Apple is at 400 plus billion, so we still have a long way ahead. So we are still a relatively young company with revenue that's 0.5% of Microsoft. That's how I like to put it. So.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.